So the yesod is that anybody who has, it's more than just faith, it's knowing God's there is a matter of awareness and knowledge. And anyone with eyes and ears should be able to know this. Look around you, and you'll see who created this. It's obvious. To get their emunah. Anyone who starts to go into calculations of is God there or not, you're missing the obvious. Just look around you, look at the wonders of the universe, and it'll be apparent. If that's the case, what exactly is being commanded to us when we have a commandment to believe in God? If it's so easy to really believe that there's God in the world, then what is it that he's asking from us? Rather, the truth is that so the truth is that Shel Emunah hi lahamin sheyachol hatolis baruch hu bilti ailat taflik hamin b'ma she'yein Torah peh la'omrav l'ba'ozn l'shama v'l'lev adam l'kira baruch. Emunah is about believing the things that human mind, ears, and eyes can't comprehend. Basically, the notion of miracles, the notion that we believe in a God beyond us. Ve'al kain, kasher leva adam kaved alav machmas izit sarah of itself. And when do you feel like you don't believe in God the most? When you're going through a difficulty, right? When you're going through a hard time, you wonder, where's God? So whenever your heart is heavy, you're sad, and you're giving up. Because there's no resolution that's readily obvious to your crisis. We have a great deficiency in Emunah. That just because you don't recognize a solution, it doesn't mean that Hashem doesn't have a solution. It's ready for you. Because he's so great that even your small, limited mind, you can't comprehend how he could resolve this. And when a doctor says, Api Teva, nature, there's no way out, Hashem has a way out. And when a financial advisor says it doesn't make any sense, there's no logical way, but Hashem has a solution to that. And when the markets look a certain way, or when a relationship looks doomed, there always is some way that you can't think of. And I think, and he's saying that Emunah basically is the belief that there is something beyond your ability to imagine. People who don't have Emunah, it's because their imagination is really stifled. They don't have that capacity to see beyond their own eyes and ears. Okay, so now we're going to give mashal of a person who's sick. Middle of page 92. Mashal chol mesukan. We can compare this to a case of a patient who's very ill. Shochev al eres davai, is on his bed. Atzuv shavur, he's sad and broken. He knows that doctors have not given him any chance, right? So what do you do at this point? Hooray! The whole doctor l'shmoa ozna mitmale libo b'tifam simcha. When you hear with your own ears, you suddenly become filled in your heart with hope and joy. Even, in other words, let's say you hear all of a sudden, sorry, I skipped a line. You hear that there's an expert who's come to town, the doctor who has solved this problem, and that is the doctor who will resolve all your issues, the world expert. Even if you just heard about that person's existence, but you never actually saw them as a patient, you're going to be filled with hope and joy. There's a cure, right? Think about the moment you heard that there is a vaccine, right? How exciting was that? Even if you were months away from receiving it, you knew that there was a light at the end of the tunnel. You don't even know if the doctor will go and cure you, or if your insurance will pay for it, or if he can heal you. But the existence of a spark of hope, even if it's a doubt, it already mesamechasi umishanes hargashaso It changes your joy. It restores hope in you that it's maybe possible that someone can heal you. Someone who has to pay a big debt, toch zman katzar, in a short time. Libo atzav alav, and your heart is sad. Shenodeh me'en yasig schum gadol kazeh v'kama shalot, and it's not known, right? Where will you get this large schum gadol, this large amount of money to pay that money for the doctor in such a short window? And lepeta yishma. If suddenly you hear that one of your acquaintances, right, suddenly won the lottery, oh, I have a financial crisis, but I know that my sister won the lottery. Now there's a chance. Even if I don't know if they'll give me the money. I don't know that they'll rescue me. But if I know that that's out there, I know there's a chance now. I have something to hang my hat on. A person who is sick or a person who's in debt, if they really believed in God, even in the doubt, that God could pull me out of my problems. If you feel the joy, it wouldn't be a question. The Korah, if you ever understand the concept that Emunah is not about what you see obviously, right? It's always funny, someone who's like super successful, well off, and everything's going well for them in life or health, and all the things, all the ducks are in order, and they get married at the right time, they have kids, and they have the perfect amount of kids, and a great house, and a perfect job, and everything's great. And they're like, oh, I believe in God. Look how great He is. That's not Emunah. That's obvious. Emunah is when there's no obvious apparent solution, but you believe that there is a God who can rescue you, even if you don't know that He will. That's Emunah. That's how He defines Emunah. The Korah Lifamim, and it happens sometimes, by someone who believes in God, so that God hears your prayers. Right? So let's say there's a patient and a debtor, right? So let's say a person believes that Hashem can hear the prayer, top of page 93. And it sometimes happens that he'll be distressed by something that he will pour out bitter words to Hashem, like someone pouring out bitterness of his heart to his friend. So bitter conversations, bitter words in front of God, like you're pouring a bitter cup before someone you love. Person has worries in their heart. What should you do? This is the ABCs of why. I think I see the screen. The ABCs of why we have the idea of talking to someone when you're going through a difficult time. Right? Where is it tells you that there's an idea of therapy, right? That why should anyone go to anyone else and ask for help? Because that's the pasuk. That's the Gemara Yoma. Gemara Yoma says, "Daiga b'leiv ish yesichen al acherim." If you have worry in your heart, talk to other people. The Omer, and you say, "Ribono shel olam, oy kama mar li, kama ani miyuach." Woe is to me! How bitter is my lot? How much I've given up. Ein kol pitron l'ra matzavi. There is no solution to my circumstance. Kach shofechu libo lifnei boro, and you pour your heart out for Hashem. Because that's the greatest type of tefillah is to feel that there is no solution other than in God. But there is a concern. There is a slight problem that happens when you talk like this. That could God would bring you to what's called apikorsis and kfira. Heresy and disbelief. Because after all, you're standing before God and you're machriz de'en pitol matzavo, and you're saying the idea, the words, there is no solution to your problem. But they're probably really believe in God. And you know his capacity to do great. The moment your mind thinks there's no solution, I'm speaking before the only one who has all the solutions in his hand. For sure, there is a solution for me. So to even say those words is a lack of emunah. And so again, he's harping on that idea that emunah, faith, is the idea that God always has a solution. Okay. Let's now he's going to give two mashalim, two parables to understand his concept. Mashal l'mi shetzarech halva v'dolam at bank. Someone needs a big loan from the bank. We're towards the bottom of 93, second to last paragraph. And you can't even get a meeting with the bank manager. To explain the need, why you need a loan, and how bad your situation is, and how badly you need money. And if you only give him the chance to have a small conversation with the menahel, for sure he would have mercy on me. No sahu ba'otobos. And then it happens that he's riding on a bus, and you start talking to the person next to you. Usually if someone starts talking to you on the bus, you ignore them because it's weird, right? Because you're from New York and you can't talk to people. And you start to tell them about your money problems, right? And that's when you move away from that guy. And you realize, wait a minute, the guy you're talking to is the bank manager. How joyous would you be if at that moment you realize the person you're talking to is the bank manager? So too, when a person speaks to his creator and mentions the name of God, that moment, what great joy would you experience? If you discover while you're talking about your tsar that you're talking to the very person who has the keys to the bank, wow, how would that flip over change your mindset in that moment? Oh, whoa, Ezo Siyat Shmaya, what mazel I have. The person I was speaking to was the bank manager. Eza Mikra Mutzlach. Wow. What fortune. What a coincidence. Dafka Misha Bigashti Khan Beves Knesset Vilasi. The one I was pouring my heart out. I was complaining about how bad my situation is in the shul, and specifically the one I was speaking to. The Tefillah Shemona Esrei also is the very one Shani Medaber is the only one who could resolve my problems. In other words, he takes like a different spin on this. The psychological need of a person in crisis is to talk about their problems. To start to tell everyone, oh, only you knew what I was going through. You should know what kind of problems I have. That's like two friends in the nursing home are talking, and then all of a sudden the person you're talking to has the keys, holding the keys to the bank. And I don't remember watched Shtisel, right?
Yeah.
The best are the
that was great.
The Bubby and the and Rebbetzin Erbluch, the two funniest people on the show.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite characters by far. I always picture them talking. Anyway, probably one of the best sequences in the history of television movies is when the boy gets in trouble for saying a bad word in school, and the grandmother's describing to her friend, this very firm Rebbitzin in the what word they said, and she's like, I'm not going to tell you what word. She's like, no, just what word is it? And she starts to utter all the Yiddish curses. It's a fantastic moment. like she's like, no, I mean, of course we won't say the word, but I'm just curious, what was it? It's just the way the mind works. Anyway, so I just picture two people talking to each other. They're saying over their ksaros. One's describing it, and then all of a sudden the person you're talking to has all the answers. It's not that I came to daven because I believe God had all the answers, and I started talking to him because he's the one with the solution. It's that I have a natural need to talk. And that the very cathartic, therapeutic process of talking about your problems, and lo and behold, you're there before God. He's right there next to you on the bus. That's the orientation that we're supposed to have to this idea. If anyone's ever had a coincidence in their life where they've had a problem, and that person is the very, answer to their issues, knows exactly that joy. I actually think that it's not just in tefillah, but I think that in hashgacha pratis, that in God's divine providence, that he works like that as well. I've seen it all the time, that whatever you're facing, it's always in the right time and situation. The answer is there. It doesn't mean you're zocha to the answer. It doesn't always happen. Sometimes it ends really poorly, but there's always like the fortuitous element to it. Like, I'm trying to take a step back and see even the time that we're going through now with a son who's sick in the hospital and surgeries, that to know that that's happening during a time when basically the requirements on kids in school are really not there, right? Kids are really zooming in anyway. Or bichlal, the fact that the moment this whole thing hit, these new innovations of communication were created. And Hashem says that, the Gemara says that Hashem creates the solution, the cure, prior to the illness. Like, we are so lucky that we like hit the lottery, that the moment this happened, we were ready on the spot to pick up electronically. We didn't even skip a beat. There was not a missed week of Torah learning in the world. Now, I'm not saying that it's better. It would have been better, obviously, if none of this happened. And all the people who passed away would be alive, obviously. But to know that you're always there, that he's always there to answer us, I think there's a joy in that. There is simcha in that. You don't feel alone. You don't feel anxiety to know that the solution's already there. That's comforting, right? All right. Now he's moving to simcha, to joy in general, the human soul, and then we understand joy as part of tefillah. Okay, so hasimcha, joy, eina achas mitulot hanefesh mikra korba. Elo etzem tchunat hanefesh betiva she'ein ma sheyofil aleha litztot nitkavanta hativit. Simcha is not an act of the soul. It's not something that happens to the soul, page 94. Rather, simcha is an essential character of the soul in its natural state when nothing casts gloom over the soul, deviating it from its natural character. We think that, there are things that make you happy, right? Like a piece of cake, right? Or, by the way, a piece of lemon meringue pie on Pie Day, which I forgot about this year, and I found out on 315 that yesterday was Pie Day, and I forgot to eat lemon meringue pie. I'm very upset about it. But you don't need that to become joyous. Joy is the constant. It is the baseline. We think that joy is something you experience when you win a championship, when you close the deal, when something happens to you. Joy is the baseline, and then sometimes things take away from natural joy. It's a reorientation of that mentality. And what's the proof that the baseline normal standard for a person is joy, simcha? Haraya al zeh de lo matzanu b'chazal b'avodas malachim kol tzvah shemaim zulat shira. The only avoda that we find that is described by malachim, the only thing angels do is they sing. They in shirat elyon k'mo adam ashar ma'orer basma haragashim shashira hit gavru al hergashav haragilim. Human songs are about the way in which you overcome normal emotions to experience extraordinary ecstasy or unusual sadness, right? Those are the songs that that used to win awards on Grammy night, and right where you experience all of a sudden an unusual emotional pull. But when an angel sings, that is their essence. That is their baseline. Because really, their existence is a continuous flow of a song to Hashem. If you were able to hear the angels and tune into the frequency of their radio channel, you would hear the constant joy of the embrace of those who are in the proximity of God. And by the way, this is who we are also. In the soul of mankind, in our natural form, we are close to God and we are singing. In our natural state, we are goeshet is a word that's similar in English and Hebrew. We are gushing with joy. Goesh. We are overwhelmed with joy. That's our natural state. Bottom line of page 94. V'nei hamachshava l'Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Thinking about God. V'kiyum shiviti Hashem l'negdi tamid. And the idea that I'm always in front of Hashem. Hu dveikut b'kesher l'Hakadosh Baruch Hu. It's connection, and it is the oneness, tie we have with God in the activity. Like the Rambam explains in his Guide for the Perplexed. Shibizman that man finds themselves close and with God in the same room. That in the place where you find the thought of man, the Kadmon said that wherever you find your thoughts, that's where you are. It's a profound idea. You know, in Shabbos, Mishnah in Shabbos says that, let's say, I'm going to draw the picture here. So let's say you are walking up to the city limits, and here's a tree, okay? So here's a tree. Okay. That's a very good tree. There you go. Okay, so let's say you are, I'm not going to quit my day job here. Let's say you're walking up to the city, and you're not going to get to the Tchum Shabbos. Tchum Shabbos means you're not allowed to walk beyond 2,000 amos beyond the city limits. So a person is standing, let's say, over here, right? And this is the distance over here is a total of 2,000 amos to the tree, and the tree is another 2,000 amos to the city. So I can't. Shabbos is about to start. I'm 5 minutes from Shabbos. I can't possibly get to the city before Shabbos, and therefore I'm going to be stuck where I am. So I'm allowed to actually set up shop here. One thing I could do is I could set up shop l'halacha called Tchum, where I am, and I'm now allowed to walk total from that spot a 2,000 amma radius, a 2,000 cubit radius in every single direction where I am. So I can go 2,000 amos here, I go 2,000 amos this way, 2,000 amos this way, right? I go 2,000 amos this way, every direction. That's the center of my square. Now, I can't get to the city if I set up shop here. But if I set up shop, if I make my camp as Shabbos begins by the tree, I could then reach the city within my 2,000 amos. Make sense? All right, I think I put everyone to a deep slumber. So why am I telling you this? Because the halacha is very interesting. I can actually say right here, I'm standing in this spot by the X. I'm actually really standing by the tree. In my mind, I'm by the tree. And because I'm there, I could actually set up shop by the tree, because I see it, and therefore I could walk to the city also. So how is it possible? Because you are wherever your imagination is. So wherever you could put your mind, right, you could be in that spot. Even though I'm standing by the X, I could actually, in my mind, I see the tree, that's where I'm going to set up shop. That will be my center of my camp. And therefore I can walk to the X, but I could also walk to the city.
You're
So
going to say that.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. If you're going to say that you could picture yourself walking to the tree, then you could say, in my mind, I'm in the city, and then you could just walk 2,000 more than
that's it's 4,000 amos to the city, but it's 2,000 amos to the tree. So I can actually set up my center of the center of my circle, right? The center of my all the different radii that I'm going to extend in my circle will be the tree as opposed to the X, because I can reach the tree halachically. So I'm going to use my imagination to say I'm actually standing by the tree, and now I have the ability to walk into the city. That's the halacha. You're allowed to do that. So I always had a problem with this thing. How can I do that? I'm not by the tree. I'm by the X, right? The good thing about being by the X means it's a treasure buried under my feet. But I wish I could be by the tree so I can get to the city. How do I get there? The answer is wherever your mind is, that's where you are, right? If you are standing in, you're standing in shul, but you're thinking about, I don't know, you're thinking about some investment, then your mind is in work. And if you're sitting and working, you're daydreaming about a conversation you had at home, you got into a fight, you shouldn't have said these words, and you said certain words, you're actually at home, and you're having that argument. Where you are wherever your mind is. That's the point. And so much so that lahalacha, you could actually do something on Shabbos that otherwise would be forbidden because your mind is that powerful. That's the halacha that I wanted to share with you. And I think that's a profound idea that we have to understand. Because wherever man's mind is, whatever you think about, sham hu nimsa mamash b'osarega. That is where you are found, in that place, in that moment. If you're stopping, you're thinking about God. And you're facing God in your mind, I'm actually talking to Hashem. I say, Baruch atah, blessed are you, I'm talking to someone. Now, at that moment, I've actually extricated myself from whatever circumstances I'm facing. Ha'olam shafel, in the lowly world of depression and sadness. And I'm actually with God. And I'm joining the constant frequency of the song of the angels. And all of the other beings of heaven, that because of their closeness with God, the Metzius Hashem, their belief in God's existence, called Atzmahu Simcha B'Shirta. They're always rejoicing. They're always happy. If you were really that aware of God's presence, you too would experience that joy. So again, let's summarize this idea before we finish this thought. Okay? And that is that people who, let's go backwards. The natural state of a human being is not depression or reality, and that you snap out of it when you have this ecstatic experience of prayer, and you suddenly experience joy. You go to a wedding and you're happy, and you go to a funeral and you're sad. The constant level of man's mind is joy. And if we were really aware of that all the time, we too would be smiling all day long like angels, right? We too would be so happy all the time. We'd be able to experience that. I remember there was a guy in Smicha, well, I don't know, he didn't go to Smicha, he was in YU with me, a couple years older. Famous, he was well known at the time, Mikey Butler. And I did like a Shabbaton or two with him upstate New York, in Rochester and other places. we would work in the same NCR jacket. And I remember one time I drove up with him, and it was like a 6-hour drive or so from upstate New York, and he had this van, and he insisted on doing all the driving. He was a very sick young man. He had cystic fibrosis. He actually passed away a couple of years later. Actually, he graduated. It was really a powerful emotional moment when he graduated, because I remember we were in Madison Square Garden, and they were reading the name. They would have someone read your name, so as you want it. So they read it as Mickey Butler, and I remember thousands of people in Madison Square Garden just stood up and cheered for him because he graduated from the hospital. I'll never forget that. So I remember he was driving. Driving this van. He wouldn't let me share the driving, and my mother yelled at me, "That's a sick boy. You have to do the driving also." And he was very stubborn. He insisted on driving, and I remember like his state of mind was always like life is good. It's so good. He was coughing, hacking away. He was literally, we shared a room in whatever house we stayed at. He was coughing the whole night, but his mind was like, I'm happy. Like this is good. Like this is a person who his constant state was joy, not like I'm suffering. And from the outsider's perspective, this was someone who, is going through a real tough time, and his life was really, really difficult. So I couldn't understand that, but he was always smiling. He always seemed to have this sense of like this angelic sense of like, I'm always in a state of it's all good. And he had like this sign off. He used to, before anyone was using email, he used to send these emails out, these mass emails to all the Chevron YU and his community. And it was like he would always sign off emails telling everyone what, like how great it is, and how nice the nurses are to him, and how the hospitals and everything was like a state of simcha. Like that was his constant. And the sign off said like day by glorious day. I think that's the way he used to sign off emails. And I remember that I remember thinking like, this is crazy. Like he has the worst life. Like the perspective is like that's joy. That's simcha. Shiras malachim. The person who's aware of that closeness to God, all the experiences of joy. They don't have anything sad in their lives. They have nothing that's like hard. And maybe they experience hardship. Maybe it's hard for them, but their constant state of mind was joy. And I always think that's what I think about when I think about this lofty idea. It's not that we're trying to experience something good, but that is the normal. And you can only experience that if you have Zeikos Pasha, right?
Rabbi, Mikey is basically like my brother. He's
he's right, Pittsburgh, right? Okay.
Yeah, the Butlers in my family are best friends. We grew up in each other's houses all day, every day, and he would even let me give him some of his like meds through his ports and stuff. Like we would walk to the hospital every single Shabbos to be with him.
Of course, he's a legend in your town. There's no question, right? I didn't realize it.
Yeah, he's basically my brother. We would call each other our family brothers and sisters.
Wow. I mean, you should have let me drive. He was stubborn. I don't know why you didn't. But
he was stubborn.
Right.
So what's in the water in your town? Because you're always joyful too.
Right.
Thank you. Probably not, but thank you for thinking I am.
I think that I think that that you had these two giants of spirit in that area. One was for the Jewish people, and one was the rest of the world. And they were like kindred spirits, Rabbi Tversky and Mr. Rogers.
Yeah, I met Mr. Rogers a bunch of times. My sister-in-law worked for him.
Oh, I love Mr. Rogers. So it's important though to have that state, that equanimity of simcha, and that's not. It's a different perspective, right? If only I get this, I'll be joyous. No, we don't think like that. You are already the simcha, and the question is, can you tap into that, right?
I think COVID has helped us to look at life in a different way. I think instead of focusing on every little thing that's a problem, the fact that you're still here and talking and able to communicate with other people, you're in a state of joy, naturally. Like it's a reversal of thinking. Instead of focusing on the little negativities, you're focusing on the larger positivities. And I think that's a really good reversal of thinking.
Right. And therefore you don't need anything to experience that. You have it already.
Mm-hmm.
It's not easy. It's easier said than done. But it's certainly is a good perspective. But that was always also the first time I learned about books on tape, because he would listen to these for like a 6-hour car drive, and he's listening to these books on tape. It was like really annoying. Imagine you can't share the driving, and and he has to listen to his book, so you're just sitting there quietly the whole time. I didn't have a phone, like I couldn't play, like Angry Birds or anything. There was no cell phones. It was then Nimsa Pesha to Megidola. And here we have the explanation of the wonder. How can you command someone to be happy? Simcha is an emotion that is just there. There's no heart in simcha. So if God says you should be happy, how does that help us? What possibility do we have? If Hashem was to say you should be happy, we are happy. So we can't force ourselves one or the other. We can't force our emotions. Now the truth is the Rishonim already asked, but as others already asked about Ahava and Yira. How do we have a mitzvah? How do we have a mitzvah to experience joy, to experience Ahava, love of God or fear of God, if that's the way we feel? You can't tell someone how to feel. I think Lahavdil, I think it was Louis C.K. said something like, you can't command someone, like, don't tell me not to be offended. That's how I feel. I'm offended. Don't tell me don't be insulted. I'm insulted. If you insult me, I'm insulted, right? Like, you can't tell someone how to feel. So how does Hashem tell us, Lahavdil, how does Hashem tell us how to love, that you have a mitzvah to love, you have a mitzvah to fear? You can't tell me that. And mitzvahs is gemuros. Asa gemura. Those are mitzvahs I say. Those are positive commandments. If the heart naturally loves or fears, the answer the Rishonim say is to do actions that bring you to love God and to fear God. So how does a person love and fear God? When you think about God's wonders, that there is no limit, that there is no barricade in front of God's abilities. I love that pasuk. If you really thought that God is limitless, then you would experience, like David HaMelech said, Sam'a nafshi lelokim kelcha. My soul thirsts for the living God. And when you think about these things, you're going to be filled with awe and trepidation. That's the obligation of joy. If I loved and feared God, I would also feel incredible joy. We call Gilu Bera'ada. Pasuk says, I rejoice in trembling. There's only one before whom you can both be completely consumed by joy and with fear, and that's my wife. No, that's me before God. Complete joy and complete fear of someone. Right? You have both of those emotions, completely consumed with constant simcha and constant awe, right? Then you know you're having an authentic experience of godliness.
That's kind of also how we feel with parents, isn't it?
Yeah, well, parents are a dugma, are a physical example in this world of God. That's why the mitzvah of kibbut avim is on the right side of luchot, with all the other mitzvahs in Adam Lamakom. Because the mitzvahs between us and Hashem are on the right side of luchot, right? Fearing God, not having other gods, right? Not swearing falsely in God, Shabbos, and what's the last? And then kibbut avim. Kibbut avim belongs on the left side of luchot. That's the laws between man and man, stealing, right? But really, we put that halacha between us and man on the right side of luchos, because when we fear and love our parents, we ultimately are serving God. It's really in a Kodesh Baruch Hu's realm. That's why the Gemara in Kiddushin says there are three partners in the creation of man. It's their father, their mother, and Hashem. And we view that really as kavod to Hashem. And that's what joy is. You have love and fear, you will also have joy. This is the nature of man's soul. To go back to your natural state. We say this in the song at the end of Shabbos and Yontif, right? In Anim Zmira. Which is when I speak of your hod, of your kavod, of your glory, my heart resounds to your love. So this is the message of Simcha so far, and we'll continue this next time, page 96. In the middle, that one has to experience joy as a natural state, not as a goal. You don't come to davening or any other request and say, I need to experience joy, and therefore I need the following items on my checklist to be happy. Happiness is a natural state. And the closer we are to awareness of God, or emunah b'Hashem, the more we will experience happiness. This is why you could have moments of joy even when things are really hard. Right? If you feel you belong, you feel comforted. And if you've ever experienced comfort in someone else's presence, that's because you feel you feel that there is the ability for them to help you, to rescue you. Could be a friend, it could be a doctor, could be someone who's going to bail you out financially. But when you're in that situation, you feel comforted even knowing that you're close to them. That's what God is. The comfort and the joy that is derived from being in His proximity. And that's the root of joyous tefillah, which this is the longest of the sections in the Sefer, and we're going to continue this next time, probably at least 3-4 times, till we get done with all of this material. So again, here we are, middle of page Nun Daled. Everybody, any questions before we stop today? Okay, so I wish everybody